Hello, my name is Amos Tarfa, and in this video I want to go over the scope of our STEM Academy that we're starting. Right now the name we're using, or that I'm using when I discuss with people, is Fargo Inspirational STEM Academy. So it's a STEM focused school, but it also actually has a classical education model where we're looking at helping kids use the trivium. So we have grammar, we have logic, we have rhetoric, and we'll be building that into the program. So but our hope and desire and prayer is that we produce an academy that has excellent education resources for families, and that teaches them what they need to be responsible and people who love learning. So let's look at a few aspects of this academy. So first of all, in kindergarten, we have reading, of course. We have some of the fundamentals of reading and writing and mathematics that happen at the very basic level. Now, of course, when it comes to reading is important, and it affects everything else, right? So there are very good resources out there. We have resources that my wife and I have used for our children that have helped them to learn to read well and are reading well in first, second grade already. And so, reading chapter books and so on and so forth. And so we thank God for these resources, and we will have, these later in the video and later in the series, I'll actually show some of these books that we've used. But I just want to go again over the basics. So we have in kindergarten, our program has the English dimension, the math dimension. There's a lot of singing that happens, a lot of learning that way. They will also learn, of course, the importance of health and nutrition actually in the kindergarten classrooms as well. Then we have opportunities for art, for music, for technology etiquette, because I know some kindergartners are already being exposed to different technological devices, and so we want them to start thinking at a young age about how to use these things properly. So we'll have opportunities for, as I said, math, English, health, and then technology, etiquette, art, music. Give them opportunities to use their creative skills. And then also for families that are interested, we're going to definitely have connections to learning French, learning Spanish, learning German. Do you want to learn do you want your children to learn these at a young age? Because we know that research has shown that it's very important. If you want them to learn these languages, that you should start at a young age. So we will have opportunities for foreign language down the road as well. But just introducing some of the goals for our kindergarten. First, second, and third grade, we also have, of course, English, we have math, we have science, and we have singing that still happens, and learning a lot of these facts that they need to know. We have art, and we have music, and we have foreign languages and technology etiquette as well. On my website, where I house a lot of these resources, which is fulllifeacademy.org, you can find the PDF version of some of what I'm reading here today. So those are some of the details for our first, second, and third grade. We want to, of course, emphasize and build on spelling, grammar, handwriting. These are very important aspects, as well as reading comprehension as they get older in this elementary program. So those are some of the things for science. As far as our social studies, or we're looking at using resources from Notgrass, which you can find on their website, but I'll be sharing more about Notgrass as well. The Story of the World is also a wonderful resource that I recommend to families. So keep in mind that some of what we're doing, of course, we're working with families that have their students at our school every day of the week. But there are some students who will come for the Homeschool Fridays, I call it, or the Friday Experiment Project Day. And those students might be using, let's say, the Story of the World, for example, or Notgrass, or different curriculum. But the Friday resource or the Friday presentation and project day, everybody comes and they're sharing what they're learning. They're making boards that they can use. They're making PowerPoints. We'll have that available where people begin to learn to use PowerPoint, so they can show us in a PowerPoint what they're learning at home and how it applies to life. So we'll talk about some of these details through the days. I mean, there's so much we can discuss. I just want to give an overview. You get into fourth grade, you're working through, again, English, math, science, social studies, art, music, technology etiquette. Again, some of these are electives, like the technology etiquette. So it's just a little bit, we'll be looking at as far as how to use technology properly. So from kindergarten to fourth grade, that's a lot of what we've looked at. Is your math, English, social studies, science, just getting kids excited about science, getting kids excited about the history of science. There are resources for that we'll be using in our course as well. So now let's talk about fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade. Okay, so let's turn our attention to look at the fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, and eighth grade. So in fifth grade, again, We have civics with literature set with Nordgrass material. We have pre-algebra material available to students, astronomy, basic science. There's actually an elective that I'm putting together called Innovations and Inventions, where students are learning it in middle school. They're learning about who came up with the CT scanner, who came up with the MRI scanner, who came up with the the aeroplane. These things that some of the kids in elementary will learn, but in middle school will zoom in. Let's talk about the history of these inventions. Why are we doing this? Because I want our students to become inventors. I want our students to invent things that will help make life, that will help people who need them for life, right? And so imagine if we have our 5th, 6th, and 7th graders coming up with inventions that are helping change lives all over the world. These are things I want them to start thinking about, and some of them will pursue these dreams into college. So 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Again, I've discussed some of of course, you have your Nordgrass, which has the history and the literature combined. You have your science material from Apologia. We also have materials from, Jay Wiles, who has this curriculum that I find very fascinating. And I'll go over a lot of these curriculums. I'm just telling you an idea of some of what we're doing with science. The reason why Jay Wiles' science curriculum is very good is because he adds a lot of history, the history of the scientists and the applications of some of the things they're learning, and then there's experiments and opportunities for that. So in middle school, they'll deal with a lot of that. So with the history, literature combined, with Jay Wiles science, and then with the math curriculum that I'll be sharing when I look at curriculum details. We will also have for our middle schoolers the following, okay? Because some of our middle schoolers will be ready. Some middle schoolers are literally ready for high school. So there's no reason to keep them in middle school. Now, I've heard the argument of, well, what if they're not mature enough? And I understand where people are coming up from with that. But the reality is that there should be opportunities to help them with the social maturity aspect that people bring up. And we can discuss those. We need to not allow, I don't know about this aspect of, are they ready or mature? And therefore, I'm not going to allow them do coursework that high schoolers are doing. No, if they're ready for the coursework, I would encourage families to consider using the coursework if they're ready for it. Because again, some of the greatest mathematicians were doing amazing things in middle school. And because of what they did, we have some wonderful math topics today. People like Carl Friedrich Gauss. Yes, you might say he's a prodigy, but we have prodigies today. How are we helping them and nurturing their skills? Okay, so in addition to the core, the English, math, history, science, we have electives they can take. The history and philosophy of science, written to a level they can understand. We're looking at, of course, art and music options, foreign language options, Spanish, French, German, and Latin. Why do I keep bringing up German, though, here and there? Well, some of the greatest mathematicians and chemists were Germans, and so some of their writings might be in German, and it would be good to understand what they were saying. The other country or the other region that had, of course, close to Germany too, I bring that up because the Swiss, like Bernoulli brothers, Leonhard Euler, there was stuff happening in Switzerland as well. And so we will be looking at some of that. Again, a lot of what we do, a lot of these guys were, some of their materials might be in another language. I think of Blaise Pascal, I think of some of the works in French, and that's another reason to have that foreign language. So Latin, again, will be available for people who want to learn Latin. That is part of what you will notice with classical schools as well. So the world of medicine, we'll look at the history of medicine. There's books that middle schoolers can read about medicine. I think that would be really cool for them to do that. So those are some options for our middle schoolers. If they're ready for calculus in middle school, we will give them the opportunity, and I'll go into detail as well later when I do my subject-specific topics in the video. Okay, high school students can expect to do an integrated history literature curriculum. We want our high schoolers actually to be doing a lot of CLEP preparation on the side. We want them to actually gain as much as 60 credits that can transfer into a college. So you can use CLEP testing to get up to 60 credits. And that's one of the things we're going to do with our high schoolers. The list of the CLEP tests are available on the CLEP website. I also have a list of them on my website. Talk about psychology, talk about economics, talk about calculus, pre-calculus. We want them to just test out of a lot of the introductory courses. And so we'll do that. Western civilizations, sociology, I believe, has a CLEP. American literature, government, we want them to, use that CLEP opportunity. So there's CLEP opportunities for high school students. There is Algebra 1, Algebra 2. Of course, those who are doing Algebra 1, Algebra 2 can take those courses in high school if they would like. But if they start with us in elementary school, you would notice that they'll get through a lot of those materials by the time they get to high school. So I'll talk more in my math specific video about the math sequence. So we have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Trigonometry, Pre-Calculus, Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Calculus 3, Differential Equations, Linear Algebra, Discrete Mathematics, and Statistics. When they graduate from our high school, they actually will have a math minor equivalent. So whether or not they're going to do anything with math, if they like math and they want to just learn math, they can get a math minor by the time they graduate from high school. That's our goal. In science, we have opportunities for physical science, biology, anatomy and physiology, chemistry, and then, of course, physics. Now, keep in mind some of what I'm mentioning is the long-term goal of what the school is growing into. So, for example, we might not be offering anatomy and physiology the first year, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't be built in as we have the children go through the different courses. But high schoolers will have opportunities for 4 years of, again, science, and that's where they will do some of that anatomy and so on. History and philosophy of science is going to be built in for our high schoolers as well. Foreign language options are available, ACT prep, SAT prep, and then career preparation. We want our high schoolers to be thinking about, what is my career route? What direction do I believe I'm called to go into? So these are different aspects that I've done. This is just a general overview. In the next video, we'll revisit each of the subjects and go deep for each grade level or each groups of grades. So I hope this is helpful I'm just introducing you to a general overview. We want students that graduate to have a math minor if they're going into STEM fields. We want them to have 60 credits of CLEP test, credits if they want. Those credits transfer to almost every college in America, a lot of colleges, so they can start literally as juniors in their colleges. That's what we want. We want you to go in and start as a junior if you want. If you want to pay the money and go from freshman to senior, that's fine. But why not spend the time learning the material well in high school, and then that way, because a lot of what we do in middle school now gets repeated in high school anyways, a lot of some of the basic science and so on. So why don't we teach it well in middle school so you don't have to repeat it in high school, but instead do the college level material in high school? That was how we learned it in Nigeria. That's how we learn it in many countries. But unfortunately, I think our system here is a lower standard in regards to some of that. So we want to create and inspire young people to love learning and give them the opportunities to be the best they can be. So we'll look into details of specifics. Thank you for watching this video as I begin to introduce our curriculum options.